Hi, my name is Saoirse Wong, and I am a holistic women's health coach and Tantra teacher. And so, welcome to Coffee with Cunts, and I'm very excited to have one of my dearest friends on today. Sue, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks
Would,
for having me here.
of course, I love you so much, so thanks for doing this because this is how important this is to me. And would you like to take a minute to introduce yourself, a bit of all the joyful things that you do or want to talk about?
Okay. Well, I am a mom of twins, Evan and Elena, boy and a girl, 3 years old. That it keeps me very busy.
Hmm.
And while I'm not doing all of the work that it takes to keep a house going with little people, I am at my sister's store, Neville's store in Steveston called Serendipity's Backyard, doing my readings and helping to operate the store. So that keeps me very busy as well.
So yes, I'm gonna interject. So Sue is an incredibly gifted and talented intuitive reader and healer. So she's being very modest right now about what she does. Mumming, as we both know, is huge unpaid labor that we talk about
Hmm.
a lot about the fact that the amount of work that goes into taking care of a home, taking care of children, making sure everyone's functional and
Fed.
alive, fed. God, feeding alone is enough work, and you have two
It's
of
a
them.
full-time job. Just
Yeah,
getting, I say if I'm not at home doing laundry, I'm at Costco. Like
yeah,
if you can't find me, I'm on my way to get food. I'm preparing food. I'm cleaning up food. It's really just the whole feeding thing is it takes a huge amount of time just to even have the supplies here to be ready to cook,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And
Which,
it's kind of depressing in this time that we're living how
Mhm.
how much harder it is to raise children. I mean, we have a lot of information, which is wonderful, but we are so separated, especially in North
Mhm.
America. Like you're alone out in the middle of butt fuck nowhere by yourself with you and your husband raising two children. I'm in
Mhm.
the middle of a city by myself raising one child. And
Mhm.
we can't find community to do this anymore. Like we don't have parents. Both of our parents are dead, passed on, whatever makes
Passed
people feel
on.
comfortable. And your husband's partner parents are sort of non-existent. And he
Well, they're
works,
here. They're just, yeah,
but they're
they're
non-existent in the fact that they're not participating in the support.
not the
Of,
daily. No, not
yeah,
the daily. Like
not
maybe
really.
once a month and once every few months,
Right. So
you
that's not
know.
enough to help out. When we think about
Mhm.
how humans neurologically developed, we developed to be in community and with many hands-on to raise one being, right?
Mhm.
Now that is falling onto women's shoulders. And not only are we stuck with raising these children pretty much by ourselves, on top of that, we're supposed to be building careers and paying the bills
Yeah. Well,
in a
I'm fortunate
world.
that my husband, I have to say, he is like he is very much raising these children with me. I don't feel alone in that with my partner.
Yeah.
So I have to say that my husband, he is, yeah, definitely. We wouldn't be able to keep going if he wasn't so hands-on. So I have to own that too, because yeah,
Yeah.
it's true.
Oh, totally. Chris is one of the
Yeah.
best men. And Chris is one of the reasons why I don't want to slaughter all the men on the planet.
Yeah, me too.
You
Me too.
know, and
I would
he
never have done this. I would never, because I knew how much, because obviously I was watching as I was growing up how much would land on me as a mom if I chose to become one.
Mhm.
So I was very, very uh, intent that if I was going to do this, it had to be with a specific type of man. And luckily, I did find that type of a man. So I am fortunate. I mean, I had children later because I met Chris later, but I would never have chosen to do it at all because I did know, my limitations of like what I could do, and I couldn't do it on my own.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, and even just even the support that I tell you this all the time, even the support that I know I have with my husband, and he is one of the good ones, really good ones,
Mhm.
I still feel overwhelmed. I still feel
Yeah.
um like, how does one woman do all of this? And I have someone helping me more than his 50%. So
Well, I
I'm kind of
think,
like, I don't know
well, the
if I
lie
want to
is
do
that
it.
one woman is supposed to do it, right?
I
That's
know.
the lie.
Yeah.
Um,
And then we're shamed if we can't, right?
oh my God, the shame
So
that
much
comes. Well,
shame.
what do you mean you're falling apart and you want to commit
What is
suicide?
it that you're doing all day?
Yeah,
What is
you
it
just
that
sit
you're
at home
doing
and
all
drink,
day?
you know?
You're
Yeah,
not working. How many times have I heard that? You're not working.
right.
It's like,
Yeah. Well, because we equate if it's paid money and if it's done
hmm
by a penis, it has value. If it's
I
done by a
guess so.
vulva, it has no value and there's no money. And this is the process that has
Or
to
it has,
change.
quite a
Has
marked
thirty,
percentage
well, let's say it
less.
has 30% if you're white,
Less. Yeah.
40% to 50% less if you're colored, and if you're an
Yeah.
immigrant, we'll give you 20% less than you'll make 20% of what a penis owner makes, right?
And we'll expect you to work, how many times harder for that.
Well, absolutely. I
Right.
mean, we talk about the rungs to getting ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the rungs for women to get ahead are broken already at the very beginning of our careers
Mm-hmm.
because we have no value. And then on top of that, we look at how much we have to speak. If we speak up or we speak the wrong way, that devalues us. I know my anger is one that devalues me, but I have a lot of anger, and we should rightfully. Anger is
Yeah.
a healthy emotion. It shows us where our boundaries are being crossed,
Crossed. Yep. And
and
where our
that
needs are not being met.
exactly, and
Yeah.
what needs to change. That is the point of anger.
Yeah.
But we as women aren't allowed to change, which I find really funny because we are nothing but change.
Exactly. We're in cycles all the time. And I know for me, that I felt anger was just inappropriate my whole life. That's what I was told. Just, oh, don't show that. That is inappropriate. So you're trained and conditioned to suppress any type of anger or rage. So you don't even know what your needs are to be able to even learn to communicate those needs. And that's what I feel like I'm recovering as an adult, going back and learning all of that stuff, like reorienting myself with anger and being comfortable with it and letting it guide me for transformation and power and things, and to learn things, to speak up for myself and advocate and be able to speak when I realize a boundary has been crossed, not get shut down in that moment and stay shut down, which I hear so much from women, and just the journey that we go on to just even connect to our anger and find appropriate ways to be able to communicate that for positive means.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, part of that reason why autoimmune disease is so
Mm.
prolific through women is the fact that we are not allowed to access our rage and our anger because it makes penis owners and other vulva owners uncomfortable. And I'm going to refer to them as penis owners and vulva owners just as body parts because I don't think they're specific to a gender, right? Like
Mhm.
gender is fluid, gender is all expanding. Um, but predominantly cis penis owners are what are in charge of the planet at this moment. And their rage towards us challenging it is hitting us even harder. And that is reflected in things that are happening in society and how we're being treated and how our body autonomy is being removed. And for me, that's bringing out even more rage The
Well,
fact
set a
that
boundary.
we are not being allowed our humanity and we're not allowed to talk about what is affecting us or have what is affecting us, our health,
Mhm.
even considered important. I mean, I always think about you and how hard you fought to get even the smallest amount of your health looked at.
Yeah, it's so
I
true.
think of my mother who finally just gave up and committed suicide because our medical system basically told her she was crazy. They didn't care. They didn't have any help. And now, with what I'm studying in the perimenopause and menopause world and coaching, is a lot of it comes from all of that disrespect of what our body goes through, how soon it starts that, and what the symptoms are. And then the fact that it doesn't happen to a penis owner, we don't care and we don't spend money to fund studying of it is really angering to me.
Yeah, and I feel like, this anger is valid, but don't you find that as soon as we express that, or even just point out that our needs are not being met, um, we have to do this delicate dance of how we uh, approach these systems.
Yeah, it's
Because
not
I've
even,
noticed if I don't approach, because I feel like
yes,
I've talked to a lot of women and I have gotten pretty far to even get the smallest amount of my things looked at. And it's because I've had to do this dance. Because I feel like if I come at it where I'm showing anger and resistance, then it gets dismissed right away as
absolutely.
being labeled the hysterical woman she's just, it's in her head, she's crazy, it's hormonal. That I feel like I'm constantly having to be so careful of how
Yeah,
I approach these people that are the gatekeepers to the specialist that I need, my doctor. I feel like I've had so many just things that people wouldn't even believe said to me because I'm not accepting no for an answer, and how I've had to communicate in a way where they will work with me, right?
yeah.
That is something I've been having to learn my entire life. Now I'm in my mid 40s. I've been doing this for 20 years since I was like a teen
Mm-hmm.
with my doctors. And also I've had to educate myself quite a bit. I've gone and studied alternative medicine, so that helps because I have more information than most, and resources. So, but even that, I mean, just even that, because it's alternative, gets dismissed, right?
Absolutely.
My
Yeah,
knowledge. And
yeah,
because
same.
and so that, having that anger, but then using it in a way where I can still be heard because I'm still being somewhat agreeable to the point where, I've had to do so many, I've had to waste a lot of time where it could have just been direct if I had been taken seriously the first
Yeah,
time, right?
yeah.
So that's dealing with the anger of that. And then I found underneath the anger is a lot of grief,
Mm-hmm.
grief for, just not feeling like I matter or feeling like, oh, all those lost, now that I am getting somewhere, I hope. It seems like I have grief about, well, what would my life have been if they had taken me seriously to begin with? That how would that have positively impacted my career, my ability to sustain myself, to do good in the world, how much I could have, done. Um, and that I could have enjoyed it more and not been in chronic pain or having to focus most of my hours of my day in my life to just survival, you know? So there's the anger about that and the grief. And then just the lack of guidance, I feel. There's just been a lack of, I've had to go and find it for myself
Mm-hmm.
with, find it out on my own. It's like it's kind of hidden. It feels like you've got to really dig, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a really good point. I always remember this in studying psychology, and I had you bring back a memory of a fellow coach, counselor, who talks about rage is basically grief trying to find another way to express itself.
Hmm.
And I'm totally on board with you. The grief is so soul sucking deep in a lot of um our vulva owning bodies, that I think that I know that for myself, when I was in postpartum, it's the grief that made me
Oh,
suicidal. And I'm not, we all know that this is not a natural place that I sit
not
in,
for you, no,
not for
not at
me.
all.
So for to hit that, and to at least I have studied, and at least I have done a lot of work, that I knew that when I was in partway through those suicidal thoughts and those moments and seriously leaning over the edge of my balcony, um, I could pull myself back enough to be like, oh shit, this is intense grief. This is intense.
Hmm.
I don't want to be here because this world sucks. Um, and the world would be better off without me. And this is a place where a lot of women sit. And we don't talk about it because, again, to go to the gatekeepers of our health, their
Hmm.
first response is not welcoming, it's not supportive. I don't know how many women I supported who have gone into places because of the grief, that that the gatekeepers would give them nothing. They give them an antidepressant, or they tell them it's
That's
hormonal, or
that's
it's
their
in
only
their head.
go-to. The
And
go-to for all of it is to
is
be
yeah,
prescribed
here's a
antidepressants.
pill, shut down, shut up. And that's
Yeah.
really what most of society wants women to do, including other women, is shut up and shut down. And
Yeah, if
I
you're not pulling all your time and energy to look better and look younger, that's appropriate. That's accepted, you know?
yeah, the amount of
You
money,
can easily go find some Botox or, there's tons of doctors offering that, you know,
and legitimately
if
allowed
you've got the
to,
money to
yeah,
go get it.
legitimately allowed to offer you Botox.
Yeah.
And I look, I'm okay with that. Please,
Yeah, I'm
if
okay
that
with
makes
that
you feel,
too.
but it's not a, I don't want to, we're not on a shame thing, but the truth
No.
is there's much more going on, and women are whole humans and trying very hard to express as whole humans in a world that still sees them as property and something to own and something to dictate and something to control. And there's this clash, this huge clash that's coming on. And that's why we are getting sicker and sicker, because like you said, we still have to dance to the
Hmm.
tune that the gatekeepers play, for us even to get taken a smidgen serious, to
We
access
get
the little,
remarginalized and shut
yeah,
down, dismissed.
just
Just
to access the little bit of information that they've
yeah.
created. Like, I don't think women understand that as of August last year, they just started testing menstrual products with actual blood.
What?
Yeah, yeah. So forever, we've been using menstrual products that are highly
Water?
toxic. They've been using water to test it.
Water? I was gonna say,
And
what have they
women go
been using?
and women have been living in shame because they think there's something wrong when they bleed, because these pads don't work, I bleed out. And so we've been living in generations of shame over a product that's supposed to work for us, but has never been
Hmm.
tested with us in mind. And the same
Hmm.
goes with heart disease. What are the symptoms of a heart attack, Sue? What are the symptoms that you know?
Well, chest pain.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like arm pain as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, God, it's not talked about for women that much. So
Guess what? Those are symptoms for men. That's not how it shows up in
yeah,
women. Um,
yeah.
so in women, faintness of breath.
Mm.
Um, and here's the funny thing is, because we have a menstrual cycle and most of us are fairly intense pain in the menstrual cycle because of a whole
Hmm.
bunch of things, a heart attack doesn't even register in a woman because usually the menstrual cycle pain is more intense than the heart pain.
Well, that makes sense.
That's why the biggest killer of women is heart disease,
Yeah, it's
because,
heart disease. I did know that it's the
right,
biggest killer is heart
it's the
disease for
biggest
women.
part of the reason it's also
Hmm.
a biggest killer is because we have removed access for most women in their older age because we scared them because of this really bad test that was done 20 about 4, sorry, I forget the date, I'll have to look it up, I'll put it in the notes. This test about hormone therapy on women, and this is why a lot of women are still scared to take hormone therapy, is because supposedly this test proved that there was an increase of breast cancer. And right now they're proving that that was an infallible test that was run, because it wasn't even taking in perimenopause. It was taken on women who are 16 above and were not healthy to begin with. So hormone therapy for them had already passed the point of not helping. And the percentage that got breast cancer, we don't know because they didn't screen them properly. Was it already pre there? Was it this? Was it that? There was a lot of questions being answered. So we've gone through several generations now that don't have access to hormone therapy because they're scared shitless about it. But estrogen and progesterone are the biggest protectors of our heart. So if you don't want to get those things, you take your estrogen and progesterone, your hormone therapies, and that supports us throughout the last third of our life. But we would rather tell women to be scared of breast cancer and take an aspirin. Now, an aspirin also doesn't work for our bodies. It only works for a man's body. If anything, it causes more damage to women's livers. So the one thing that could support us, we are not allowed to have access to because they've scared us so much. Then the information we're given to how a heart attack works is only for men, not women. And then the healing process is for men, not women. And we wonder why we're sick and dying. Right? Like,
or why it just seems like there's no answers to simple answers for us, you know, why it just seems like we're too complicated for anyone to take the time to unpack and help us figure things out.
That's the key.
We're complex.
We're so complex.
Yeah,
and each
we
woman
are.
is so individual to how her system works, that if you want to build a system that is very quick and easy and pushes you through and makes good money, you follow a man's body, because a man's body is not complicated. Basically, you have to deal with testosterone and making sure they're eating and hydrating right. And listen, we get complicated. They are a little more, but basically that's it. You worry about their hormone level of testosterone from their youth to their age, and then their daily testosterone. We're cyclical. Our brain changes with the hormone level. They just released a study about 3 months ago. Finally, because we have female doctors who are actually interested in this and pushed really hard for this test, they've been doing MRI scans on the female brain, how the menstrual cycle affects it. And what they saw blew their minds. The way the brain changes within the month is insane. A man's brain doesn't change that much through his lifetime. We're doing it monthly. So if you're feeling a little crazy and a little rageful, well, guess what? Your white cell, like your white brain matter and gray brain matter, this is growing and expanding and shrinking every fucking month.
Well, I feel like, you know me, and I feel like when there's certain times, like right before my cycle, and I feel just super clear, and like the channeling that comes through me is so precise and clear, and it's like I go through times of brain fog too, but I also go through intense clarity where it's like, oh no bullshit. And I think that's what's happening, is like we're clear.
And that has to do with the hormone fluctuations that allow your brain to expand to more connection and shrink down into internal connection, external connection. I mean, that's how powerful we are. But the medical system
and our emotional system too. We're more connected to our emotions. So if something's being crossed, it's it's going to resonate. We're not going to be, it's like it's the volumes turned up for us to even be aware of it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because we're I feel like we're forced to turn it down, but like during this time, it's like the volume's up. We're
Yeah.
not like, and it's good that we're accessing those parts of ourselves, but we're told there's something wrong. We're pathologized for it, you know?
Absolutely. Well, because it doesn't happen to a penis owner. And all
No.
studies, well, and here's the thing is even when drugs are prescribed to women, what they do is they basically take a man's body and just say, meh, just give her less because it's smaller. So they don't even
Oh,
take into it,
smaller.
they don't even take into account the hormonal fluctuations, how it affects our body, how it affects our ovaries. It's basically they're a man's body, but less, which I find really ironic because a lot of women can be larger than men.
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody's
Right.
different.
And this is why when we're looking at taking care of ourselves, we have to really advocate and really study. But we're also exhausted, shamed, shunned, and told that it doesn't matter. So access to information for women is, thank God, getting better, and we have to find the right
Well, with the
people.
internet, yeah, just being able to research things on your own, but
But we also have to be careful because
you have to be careful.
we have to
Yeah,
be careful of who we get that information from.
exactly.
Because there's a lot of disinformation that's going out there. And again, we have
Mhm.
a lot of it's mind-boggling.
Well, everything's very polarized with the whole pandemic we've gone through. So people don't trust the information,
Well,
which is good. People need to have discernment for their sources and where they're getting things. Absolutely. But
absolutely.
just with how polarized everything was, it's like either everything's so extreme. So you have to be careful that you're, where you're getting these studies that you're reviewing or anything,
Yeah, you
right?
do have to look at who's doing the studies, why they're
Yeah,
doing the studies. Absolutely.
it's
I
paying for
agree.
those studies.
Who's paying for those studies is very important.
Yeah.
It's pretty scary that and why they're putting that information out there. But I think
Hmm.
the key we come away with here is that women are complicated.
Yeah.
And we should be treated in that way. And we should be
Hmm.
treated with respect and honor because we
Yeah.
do most of the work on the planet. It's unpaid
Yeah.
labor, so it's not
Unpaid
considered
labor.
valuable, but society wouldn't run without us and it wouldn't
Well, and
exist
and the
without us.
things just around my house, if I wasn't doing them, we'd have to pay someone to do them,
Right.
right? Or my husband does a lot of stuff around the house too. It's like if he wasn't capable, because he's very capable of fixing things, figuring things out, we would have to pay someone to do those things as well,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So, if you're working to earn your living, to pay your way in life, plus you're having to do all these other things that are you'd have to hire to pay someone to do. It's like, where is the time I feel like where's the time to actually take care of yourself properly?
Well, here's the thing. That's
Right?
the society we've created is
Yeah.
we we collectively individually, I know that people care about people,
Yeah.
but
Inherently there's that.
collectively, we don't give a shit.
Hmm.
And and the reason I know that is because we look at policy and we look at how people are struggling and we look at how people are falling apart. We look at what's happening to our children and we look at what's happening to our environment. So collectively, we don't give a shit.
Hmm.
And now we can say that we can blame that on our leadership, but who allowed our leadership to be where they are?
Yeah.
Collectively, we've done that. And yes, historically, we can go back and say, well, 2000 plus years ago, in came religions that hated women and hated and wanted ownership and blah, blah, blah. And we've just been spinning this story. And we're still spinning this story of, you know, hate Eve because she ate some apple, and now that sin is continued on, and we must now
Yeah. It does reek
contrive.
of punishment,
Well,
honestly.
that's the thing, is our society is built on punishment. It's
Hmm.
not built on love, it's not built on support, it's built on punishment and ownership. I own this, Therefore, it does what I tell it to do. And if
Feels
it
like
doesn't,
covert punishment, because I
yeah,
know when I go to my doctor, she's lovely, and she's, she obviously cares. She became a doctor, but I
well,
feel like just the way she was educated,
yeah,
it inadvertently punishes me.
yeah,
And you can see that that strains her as well, right? Like she's limited because of what she can do, right? And she gets like, she's like, what can I, can't do anything else for you, like in the system that I'm working in,
yeah,
like that's the best that, of to her ability. And I do see that. So, but then why do I walk away feeling like I don't matter and like I'm being punished and like I'm crazy to even want to try and get to the root of my health issues, right? Like, oh, I'm still here trying to figure it out. It's like, haven't you gone away yet? Like I'm a burden. I feel like I'm a burden because I require more than they're giving me or
yeah,
they're giving me access to.
yeah. Well, you
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. Well, it
And that,
feels like that.
but
It feels like that. And
you are.
it's confusing because it's confusing just because I don't feel like anyone is um out to punish me but it just feels like that's the byproduct of where I feel like I always am, just getting a little closer but not quite all the way there. And if I need to actually get a proper treatment, I have to go through all these hoops and do all these things that are actually pretty damaging that I don't want to do just to
Yeah,
go
I know.
straight to the solution,
Yeah,
because the government will only pay for those things if you try, these three things first, which don't work as well and have more side effects.
yeah,
But, right, it's like, what? So I feel like I'm being punished again, that I've gotten to another like threshold of further down the line. And I'm thinking, really? Like, oh my goodness. But, and I've gone a lot farther than most women because I'm, white.
yeah,
I am married. Like you said, that I have a husband.
yeah. And these are tally points in our society that matter.
Yeah.
You have children, so that gives you a couple extra points. You're white, you're
Yeah.
attractive, you're well spoken, you're educated, and you have a husband. Primary thing is you have a husband, right? That's where your value in society comes from. Primary thing is a man chose you, so you have value.
Oh my God, to me that just seems
No,
outrageous.
I understand, but we have to look at how society is structured and
I
why you
know, I know.
get.
Yeah.
And that's the systemic issue. And it's in the water we sleep at. And this is where people don't like me, is I'm going to point this out. This is how society works and why you are struggling, why other women are struggling.
Definitely, yeah, this ruffles people's feathers when you start talking about this stuff because you're
And
very passionate about it.
especially penis owners, because they don't want to actually look
Yeah.
at the fact that they don't see us as human. And it also hurts women or vulva
Yeah.
owners because they don't want to come to the acknowledgement. Like, look, I would really love to live in a world where I could just be allowed to love men and respect them and honor them. But I want that respect and love and to be seen as a human, not because my ass is fine and not because of what I
Mhm.
can do for them, but because I'm fucking human and I'm intelligent and I'm smart and I'm caring.
Yeah.
I don't line up in society to what merits that. Now, I am really lucky that I'm vocal. Um, I'm I'm also in the fall of my
You
period,
are vocal.
and I'm also perimenopausal. So I'm hitting all of the points where I just don't fucking care anymore.
Yeah, we don't really care anymore, do we?
No, I deeply I deeply like the problem is that I deeply, 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 deeply care. But I just
Oh,
no
of
longer
course, no, we
care.
deeply care, but we don't
Yeah.
care about how
I
we're
don't care
seen
about the I don't
as
care about
much anymore.
exactly. I don't care about the
Yeah.
gatekeepers. The gatekeepers
Yeah.
can just piss off and get out of my way. And
Yeah.
and I
Oh,
and
that's
I
hard. That's a tricky
understand that
one.
even more gatekeepers are going to come at what we're trying to
I
do.
feel like those gatekeepers are leaving their guard.
Hard.
I feel like
Well,
some of those gatekeepers are just leaving their guard. They're just like, I can't, they're just like, I can't, they're not even there to even gatekeep,
that's
you
great,
know?
but the ones that are left are doing a good job to really try and put women back in their place.
Yeah.
But the nice thing is there's this wave coming.
And I don't blame them for leaving their guard if I was working within that system. My doctor she's having to cut back. And so we had this conversation, and
Yeah.
if I was her, I I I would probably do the same thing if I had to work in the system, that she's been working in. So yeah.
It's hard. These systems are not set up for success. They're set up to
No.
maintain a pretty awful standard.
Hmm.
And if you want to challenge that standard, that's where the pain points come in.
Yeah.
And as women, that's our job is to constantly challenge standards.
Well, I feel like, and I've never really myself felt like an advocate. It's not, I mean, that's not what I set out to be. That's not,
No, no, that's
that's
never
not
been your goal.
like,
That's definitely
that's
mine.
not been my life's mission or anything like
No,
that. But I
no.
feel like that's what I've become. I'm now becoming a mom, especially during COVID, a full time, ever since these kids came out of me. I
Hmm.
feel like a full-time advocate. I'm being forced to um adopt these parts of myself and step into them, not because I'm comfortable, but because I have to. I
Yeah,
absolutely have to, right? And
yeah,
do I want to have to spend all my time doing this? No, but I feel like I if I don't, nothing will be done. Like I will not get proper care for myself, and my children,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So,
Well, you know what? And we're beautifully in a time where because enough people are advocating, things are being heard. Like you said, like how sad is it that as of August last year, menstrual products are finally being tested with menstrual blood? That's because enough women went, what the fuck is going on? That's
yeah.
what advocation of women saying, what the fuck is happening?
Well, did
We
you know that tampons and pads aren't taxed in certain provinces in Canada, like
well,
Quebec?
they
And
finally changed that because I
yeah,
know
just there though. I don't know if anywhere else we still have to
no,
pay tax.
yeah, I know because
Here.
because a penis owner doesn't. It's not necessary. You can just free bleed,
Oh, well, I mean, I think
and if you
that
go to
there are
work,
some
just
very
free.
powerful things that will come from that. If we
Granted, but I don't know if you want to go to work and free bleed in your desk chair.
No, I don't, but I think like that there is some sacred practices that people do with just free
Totally love
bleeding.
it. I've done them. I'll do them again before my bleed stops, hopefully. But
Mhm.
yeah, no, but that's what advocation is getting us. And it's sad that on top of all of the work we have to do with raising children
Yeah.
and having a job because we have bills to pay and it's getting more and more expensive, not having a community to support us. We also now have to advocate. So no wonder we're getting sicker. No wonder we're fucking tired. And if you're me, you're full of fucking rage.
Yeah. Well, I feel like this is, one of your strengths where you're very passionate about all these things and you spend your time educating yourself on all this,
I try.
right?
Yeah.
You've become highly resourced,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I think that well, here's the thing that I've learned with rage when I was younger is it does make you look stupid when you're really, really rageful. And
Yes.
that's where my shame in the game comes from is just knowing deeply, viscerally, this is not right. But because I'm
No.
a woman and just saying this isn't right is not enough, you have to educate yourself with proof to why it's not enough. And here's the thing,
Yeah,
that's
you
still
have to speak in that language and you have to be calm because it's like the calmest person is the one that will be heard, even if it's,
well,
eh,
even that, it's not even that. Like as a woman, you're supposed to shut up and put up. Like you said,
put up
it's
and shut up. Well, that
really
was said to me over and over again as
yeah,
a child and
yeah,
growing up. It's like, haven't you figured it out yet? You just put up and shut up.
yeah.
Like, well,
And
no. It's like, oh, this one's hard to break. She won't learn that she's to put up and shut up.
great way of putting it.
No.
It is about breaking us, but I still think like your best thing you said is we have to dance with these people. And I'm not a very good dancer.
I've had to become one.
Yes, you're very
So I
skilled.
think this is where I have my moments though. Don't get me wrong. My
Yeah,
husband will tell you, like the
yeah,
rage comes out and it gets directed at him and it's not fair because he's one of the good ones.
Yeah.
But the reason I can is because I feel safe with him,
Mhm.
and that there's been very few men in my life where I feel I'm safe to actually start exploring this part,
Well,
you
and
know?
there's a thing for women is everything's about safety. The reason we're
Yeah.
safe, the reason we do what we do is because we're not safe. And
Yeah.
and who makes us unsafe are the penis owners. Like predominantly, we walk down the street and our bodies are on high alert. It's funny, I'm older, much older now.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so I now don't see them as a threat, but that took many years of like,
Oh,
who's going
yeah,
to
me
grab me?
too.
Who's going to say something inappropriate
Yeah.
or hurtful or something? And that's
Objectify me,
always
sexualize me.
yeah, in the back of my head. And now I'm like, bring it on, motherfucker. I'll take you down.
Yeah, I
Uh,
don't feel like that stuff happens to me as much now that I'm not so in my maiden phase of my journey,
no,
you know?
and another gift of getting older is that. But the thing is now I want to be there to protect other women when I shouldn't have to. Do you know what I mean?
No. Yeah, I
We
agree. We
shouldn't
shouldn't have
we
to.
shouldn't have to.
Yeah, that's like a lot of the grief that I have too is I like why I shouldn't have to be spending all my effort and time even having to do these things. But obviously we do need to be because it's not there for us. But yeah, a lot of that sadness and grief comes towards the fact that we're having to spend our time and our energy in this, whatever I don't want to call it a fight, but
You know what? It is. Let's be honest. That's why we're exhausted because we
it
shouldn't
feels
be.
like it.
Absolutely, it's a fight for our
And I
life.
don't like conflict, as you know. That's like I don't
No,
like it, but
nobody likes conflict except for those who create it. And the reason they create it
exactly.
is because of fear and disconnect of who they are.
Yeah.
Right? Like conflict is created because of fear of the unknown. Um,
Yes.
and instead of sitting down and going, I don't know, can we have a conversation? Can we figure it out? Or I'm just going to be scared for a minute. We create conflict. And again, that predominantly comes from the penis owners. Look, and I'm like, there's a lot of aggressive women too, like vulva owners too. But
Oh,
usually,
for sure.
usually vulva owners get to that point of aggression because they've been aggressed upon so much.
Yeah, microaggressions our entire life. I mean, I didn't even learn what that was until, not that long ago.
Yeah.
But like microaggression is just something I feel like I've had to work like that energy, I'm really sensitive to energy. I've been feeling that my whole life, you know, and for me to think, well, it's just you. Like you're too sensitive. Everyone else is fine with all this. But when you start talking to women, it's like, no, we're not actually. We're
No,
not all
women,
fine.
we're not
We're not okay with it.
we're not okay. It's just that when we try to talk individually about how not okay we are to
Yeah.
gatekeepers, to other men, to whatever, we're told, shut up, put up. That's just life. You know what? It's your hormones. You're crazy. You're depressed.
Yeah.
You know what? You
Like this
shouldn't,
is just part of being a
settle
woman.
down. Settle down. Just settle
Settle
down.
down.
Settle down. And it's like, you don't know. You're not swimming in the waters that we're swimming. You created those waters and it's not safe. It's not safe
Well,
for
I don't
you.
know you, but I just feel like I felt like my whole life, um, because I am a highly sensitive person,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm proud to be that,
Yeah.
that I was made to feel like it was just me. Like, it's just
Yeah.
you that's so complicated. It's just you that's so hard to figure out. It's just you that has these issues, you know?
Well,
So why would we bother spending the time? Because it's just you. So go figure it out, right, girl.
well, here's my theory with that. That's part of the reason why communities were disassembled.
Yeah.
And it was to make like I always remember reading the book before I got pregnant that talks about bringing the sacredness back to birth. I gave the book away. It's an amazing book, but The last place that men attacked was the birth process. And they did
Mm.
that by removing women, helping women give birth. That's why doctors moved in.
It's a super powerful initiation.
Exactly. But it was the last place that women were allowed to group together and support each other. And so in the 1900s is where it really took over, but they've systematically been eroding it. And because, and this is the story goes, because men were worried that if women grouped together, they'd start to control other men. And then
Yeah.
they would want their place in society.
Well, they're afraid that we'll do what they do.
Well, that's the key, right? So the thing is, when women group together, we heal. We
Yeah, we
talk,
do.
we communicate, we create community. We don't go about like we vent like I'm doing. We don't plot the death of other human beings.
No,
What we do is we get together and go, how do I make this
I
better
make
for
this
you?
better.
How do I make
Yeah.
this better for my child? How do I make it better for the future? How do
Yeah.
I hold you in a space that allows you to feel safe so that you can let go of those things? We can go back into the world and hopefully move forward and change it.
Yeah.
So the systematic erosion of female community is why they can tell us individually, you're fucking crazy,
Yeah, it's just you.
right? Like
Yeah.
that's what that my mom tried very hard to build community and
Oh.
systematically was told she was crazy.
Yeah, I feel like we both lost our mothers that way. My
Absolutely.
mom through long-term chronic illness,
Yeah.
right? And your mom choosing, right? But it's for the same reason of not being heard or given appropriate care,
Yeah.
for their health issues,
And they
that
were
they both
told
left
that
this
it was
planet very young.
just them.
Very young,
Yeah. And
right?
they were told it was just them. When in
Well,
truth,
yeah.
it's not just them.
No, God, no.
It's all of us women struggling and having a hard fucking time. But we have this gift now that we can build community again.
Yeah, we do. And we do have, yeah, the technology and access to things where we can.
Well, and that's really the purpose of like this YouTube podcasty coffee with cunts is really for women to have safety, to
Have a safe place to
rage,
actually
to
emote.
rage, and to get information and to not be told they're crazy and
Yeah.
to really start to talk to these places, have your gift of being able to dance, be okay with the range that I'm happy to express for them, and be seen and heard and be valid.
Yeah, you are a good person to help someone get in touch with that part of themselves.
It's
Right.
important.
Because it's really intimidating for a lot of women. I mean, I know it was for me, it still is, because
I
every time
you know,
that would show up, it would be like almost like it's you're just aware of how inappropriate it is, and you have to be careful, because if you go too much in one direction with your anger, you're immediately dismissed, and nothing else that comes out of your mouth after is listened to.
yeah,
If they
absolutely.
think for a second, that you are, one of just an angry woman,
Yeah, I know. No more, no bigger insult than being an angry woman.
Well, yeah, I mean,
No
it's,
bigger insult. It's
it's,
because
it's,
all of a sudden I'm undesirable to men, and that makes it uncomfortable. But it's really funny because even in my rage, it was a lot of women that tried to shame me out of it.
well, for sure.
It,
I mean,
yeah.
it makes women very uncomfortable. It can, right?
Well,
It
and
makes a lot of people uncomfortable.
that's
Anger.
the point.
Yeah.
That is the point. Now we've used rage. Men use rage to control. I'm using it to change.
Yeah, I like it like fire as a transformative element.
100%.
No.
That's the
But
point.
it's you have to mix it. Like I feel like it's in that alchemy of mixing all these elements, the water, the air, the fire, wood, the metal, you
Yeah, the
know.
balance. Yeah.
If you're seen as too much in one of these, like too fiery, then it's like, especially as a woman, it's like you're dismissed right out of the gate.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, she's just one of those women, not going to hear anything she has to say, right? So it's that dance of being able to, you know, uh, deliver and communicate our needs. But that's something that, because I say this to we talk about this to my husband, um, that where were we ever given safe space to explore and practice that, where we could get good at that, right?
We weren't.
Well, we weren't. Yeah, not. We'd have to really seek it out. I mean, there, of course, you can find these, but you're seeking that out. Like, it's not being offered
But
to you, right?
it's not being, you have to seek it.
Yeah.
And you have to seek it as we're older, as
Yes.
children. Although what's wonderful now is there's enough information out there to support the children that we're raising
Oh,
to
yeah.
to express all of
There's
their
a
emotions.
lot more resources for that. I'm seeing
Yeah,
now. Yeah, for
yeah,
children to
right. But
supported
but we
in
still
their
need to resource the parents to be able to handle
yeah
their emotions so that they
resource the
can teach
parents.
these children, right? Like the only reason I have access to the full color of my emotions is because I studied it, I fight for it, and I have the
Mhm.
space for it.
Well, yeah, and I feel like for me, I had to. I'm not. I'm still learning. My goodness,
Well,
I'll be learning this until I
absolutely.
die.
Yeah,
Um,
emotions are complicated.
but
It's every
it's
journey.
learning about health and how everything's tied to our emotions,
Yeah.
you know, and that, if we suppress our emotions, it will show up in our bodies.
Well,
So having to
again,
learn that language.
we go back to why do women have, all of these autoimmune issues? It's because of the suppression of our anger and the
Hmm.
safety to express our experience and have it validated.
Yeah, I mean, that's what children are doing. They're learning as they're learning to express things,
Right.
you know.
Right. And the
I feel like,
validation is what's healing,
yeah.
right? Validate, like, this is the number one thing that in the studies of like going through postpartum when I was doing it and going through the studies of perimenopause and menopause is validation for women is huge to our healing because we
Yeah,
have
to
been
be seen and heard.
invalidated for thousands of years. And
Yeah.
even when we go to systems that are supposed to say, yeah, I got you, girl, we're invalidated. But just someone saying, hey, I see you, I hear you, what you're going through is what you're
It's
going through,
real. Yeah.
and it's real. The body calms down and we are able to be present,
Oh, yeah, it really does. Being seen and
start
heard.
healing.
Even if there is no answer or solution, just being
Yep,
seen and heard,
yep,
that alone
is
is
huge.
it's
Is
huge.
huge. Well, it was like when we first started talking before we started recording about you're like, I'm in a brain fog. I'm like, honey, that's the those are
Yeah,
signs of
that happened a lot lately.
perimenopause. Right. Those are signs of perimenopause coming on. And a lot of your body pains are going to increase because we have to deal with your perimenopause. And you went, what? And I'm like, yeah, because that's information you're not given. And you just thought you were crazy because you're in brain fog. I'm like,
Well, I
no,
just
you're
maybe for being,
changing.
ditzy or something.
No, you're not ditzy. Your body's going through this huge hormonal shift that because a penis owner isn't going through, doesn't matter. But here's the
Yeah,
thing.
like it's because if they don't go through it, it's not real. It doesn't exist.
Oh, do you
It's like
know how
it's just
many?
you. That doesn't exist.
It
It's
doesn't,
like
there's,
what?
that's a myth. Like there's this great comedian online that was talking. She did a rage thing too, and I was like, "You go, girl!" And
Oh
it was
yeah.
literally this saying. A guy in the bar basically told she's like, "I'm perimenopausal. I'm la la la." He basically said, "That's not real." She's like, "Really? That's not real? What? How? What's your information? How did you get that from? It's a myth. Where did you get that from? Where did you get that information? Because I'll tell you right now, living in this body, that's
Yeah.
fucking happening. And I'll tell you
Mhm.
hormonally, I'll bring my hormone records to you. That's fucking happening. But because it's not happening to you, it doesn't matter. And that's the problem of the world we live in. Because it's not happening to them and it gets in the way of them owning us and controlling us, it doesn't matter. And that's the society we've built. But that's the
Yeah.
society we're in the process of changing. And yes, I
Well,
am going to do everything I can to make sure that changes. And my son is going to be raised to understand women matter. What she's going through is
yeah.
valid. And I don't care if he's gay, straight, or fluid, or whatever he decides to do with his sexuality. He will understand a woman's body and how it works. He will also understand his, because the information that men have about their bodies is pretty shit too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's so
if he doesn't,
inverted. All the stuff that it's so inverted. They don't even have the guidance to even,
but here's the thing, their
a
body
lot of
is
that's super toxic and it's harmful to them.
yeah. So but if you understand the female ecosystem, then you get all the ecosystems.
Yeah.
Because if
Wow.
you understand the most complicated ecosystem,
It's actually simple, but we're told it's super complicated. So
no,
let's
no,
not even try to
no,
unpack
no.
that.
Our ecosystem is incredibly complicated.
It is.
We're incredibly complicated. And we should be honored with that complication, and we should learn to understand that
Not
complication.
punished for it.
That is so important. But that's the journey we're on.
But it's that, the approach of even starting to address how complicated our ecosystems are, right? That's the simple choice. But that's, because to me, that's obvious at this point in the world. It's just still like, I don't know.
Well,
It's
we're
not the only angry ones. Like the world is kind of, at its, breaking point in some ways.
Absolutely. And we are a reflection of that, hence the rage in us, or hence the grief, or hence the depression.
The urgency, because we have children, right?
Yeah,
The urgency
absolutely.
to make sure that we're able to care for our children in the way and continue to advocate for them, because we know they're going to need it. Like you said to me before we got on recorded this call, you said, like women in their perimenopause, we make sure those kids that we gave birth to can survive and can live, are taken care of, right?
Yep.
So
yeah,
how can we do that if our basic health needs are being ignored? We're not at our full vitality.
Nope, we can't.
We're too wrapped up in our pain that's what I saw with my own mother. Like, it's not that she didn't want to be in her station to help me through that point in my life. It's that she had too much going on in her body to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And that probably broke her heart as much as it broke mine to see it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's what I realize now, is that I'm a parent and I'm trying to advocate for my basic needs. And I know our healthcare system has changed a lot since, the 80s, 70s.
Oh, it's degraded.
90s, but
it's degraded. It's not something that Canada can be proud of anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And work for my mother. And even with her neurologist and all these things. So she had MS. So she could get direct access to those health professionals, and it still wasn't enough. Yeah. Right now, just even getting taken seriously enough to get to one of those. Good luck.
Yeah. Hold on a second. I'm just gonna pause us. So thank you for the pause to run to the loo and deal with myself. And let's wrap this up, because honestly, this is a meandering that we can go on for ever. I mean, that's the point of this space that I want to create, is that we can meander. Like, this is also how women talk. We meander through our topics to get to a solution. And that's something also I find society invalidates, because we as women, we need to talk in circle to get to the solution. Where that's not how men work. They're linear. And that's fine. I respect that. We need both. But when there isn't a space for us to speak in our circles, that also causes a lot of pain and a lot of anxiety and a lot of shame. And I think as women, we really have to understand that that's how we talk. We talk in circles.
Yeah, and our depression and our sadness and our anger is completely valid.
100%.
It's completely, when you can't get a basic need met, of course you're going to be upset and angry and depressed if you're not being heard.
Yep.
That the fact that you are responding in that way shows how, that's actually very, very healthy response.
Right. And we gotta be okay with that. And and listen, I think it's really important as women that we take these spaces and we start to really understand and validate each other, because the penis owners aren't going to. And look, there are a lot of men who are starting to educate themselves, and they are starting to, I see them, and I don't want to
Yeah.
devalue what they're doing,
No.
but a larger wave are still not getting it and not caring to get it. The backlash of these creepy men online talking about women's body counts and the fact of how women should act and all of this stuff is showing us really clearly how disrespected and how little we are cared about and for. And so that is going to be our responsibility. And it makes me sad, and that's where my anger
Yeah.
comes, that it has to be my responsibility to
We
validate
have,
my.
everyone has to take personal responsibility for their health.
Well,
Bottom line.
what
Like,
I agree with you, but why do I have
yeah,
to validate my humanity for someone to take what I'm
seriously,
saying
seriously.
seriously so that I
Yeah,
can take care of my health? Like,
exactly.
not
That's the
that's the
rage
part that
part.
rages me, is like, I have to prove that I'm human first before you'll validate what I'm going through.
I feel like we have to come with all these, with all this validation to
Yeah,
even be heard. Like we have to come fully armed with all the information we can have access to, even
100%.
be
And
heard or taken
where
seriously. And even then, it's not very likely like they will. And even if they
very
do take you
unlikely.
seriously, they don't have access to what we need, or it's so clogged up that, you know, there's such a long waiting list.
Yeah, because there's so many women going, what is wrong with me? Because we've been told it's just us. But collectively, it's not just us. Collectively,
Um,
we are in pain. Collectively, we
yeah.
are suffering.
Well, I
Collectively,
find it really crazy that in the medical school, like they get like a couple hours of, you know, nutrition,
okay,
like
you want to
learn
know
about
something?
human body.
Here's something that I learned, and I was like, what the fuck? So, a gynecologist only gets, if they're lucky, a month's worth of study on perimenopause and menopause. So, you're telling
Wow.
me the person who's supposed to be poking around in my junk doesn't even get enough information to support me through something that is 4 to 10 years of my life, but also I spend a quarter of my life living it.
Yeah.
What the only thing that they really study is, can I get pregnant, how to get pregnant, and how to make sure I stay young. And even even things like endometriosis and vaginismus, these are not cared about unless they're affecting the partner.
Oh,
Do you know what
interesting.
I mean? So if a woman
Yeah.
shows up and says, it hurts when I'm, I pee or I'm sexual, then they go, oh, your partner is not getting laid? Okay, let's see what we can do. And then the treatment for vaginismus is about stretching the vaginal opening so that a penis can go in it. Not understanding, is she safe? Has she had sexual issues? Has she been harmed sexually? Has she been harmed
Yeah.
emotionally?
What
Has she
is her
been
trauma?
harmed
Like her
emotionally?
trauma.
What's her trauma? How is her
Yeah.
gut? How is her lymphatic system? All of these things affect the vulva. But it just goes straight to, can a penis enter it? Okay, well, you're in so much pain that a penis can't enter you, so we've got to do something now so that a penis can enter you. No, and we're not even going to worry about your pleasure. No, no, no. No, no, no. Just, can it open up so that you can have a penis? Like,
You
that's
you want to, you know, something, want to know something?
mm,
They used to consider that the women's completion of a sexual act. This is back in like, this was like, I'm talking late 1800s, early 1900s in the medical literature, that I had access to one of these medical books that my grandmother had.
yeah.
They viewed her completion of, you know, copulation, her finish was giving birth. That was her, and the man's was his, you know, obviously his
Orgasm.
erection. That that was his completion. Hers was getting pregnant and carrying a baby to term and giving birth. That is what they viewed our that interaction being
Yeah.
for us. That's our
Yeah.
completion.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense
That our
because
pleasure wasn't even taken into account. It's just not even about that. It's just
okay,
purely
it's
functional.
but it's still not
I know,
taken into account.
but
Like
that was actually in the medical text.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I
no, I've
read
read it.
it. I would read it and I was just fascinated going, oh my gosh, like, oh my God, is this for real? Like,
Yeah.
you know, a
Mhm.
100 years later.
Well, I mean, why in gynecology do we still have a speculum, which is basically a shoe horse, pull us open? Why is that something that was created in the 1800s by some creepy gynecologist who studied on black women who
Oh
who
my
he
goodness.
refused to see as human and did all of this stuff in the
Yeah,
most
we're just these
disgusting,
things.
horrific, painful, non-humane ways because he was curious and he thought, well, I can't practice on white women because, we might need them to breed more white men. So I'll take this because it's
Oh
kind of a
man. And so
female.
this hearing you say that, it just sounds so like
But that's how gynecology was created. Like, look, I'm telling a
it
basic
it
story, but if you look
it
up the
sounds
history,
so like hard to believe. Like
but that
even I'm getting like, what are you saying? Like, oh my
that is
goodness,
what
that
is
makes me
still
so upset.
prevalent. This is what's still prevalent in the medical system for women to work with.
Yeah.
We are still inhuman, right?
Ah,
I just want women to understand that the medical system is still not seeing our humanity. I mean, nothing sees our humanity. So we have to see our humanity. We have to see our sister's humanity,
well, yeah, you
and we
fail
have
us,
to
you fail the children.
yeah, but when we see them as property, we don't care.
Well,
Right?
children are considered property as well.
That's what I'm saying. When we
You
see them
know
as
that.
property, we don't care. Right? Like
Mm,
again, if you were to go individually to a father, hopefully, I'd like to say, and say, "Do you love your children?" He would probably say yes. He's like,
of
"Do you see them as
course.
human?" Not, of course. Not. I'm hoping because there's still a lot that don't. Do you want the best for them? Hopefully, they'll say yes. All right. Can we look at how you live in the world? How are you creating that for them? And we look at the world, and it ain't going so good.
No, yeah. I mean,
It's not.
these in
And
the systems that they're obviously breaking down.
I, are they?
Yeah, I mean, I
Uh,
would say so. There's evidence of that everywhere.
um, yes, but it's still what we're living in. So the breakdown is causing us harm, and they're refusing for us to create something new. So is it
Yeah.
breaking
Well, these
down,
systems
or is it?
they need to break down because they weren't serving everybody,
Well,
right?
they were never meant to. They were meant to serve
No.
only those who they want to serve. I don't think the systems are. I think the system is working perfectly because it's breaking down more people, right?
Okay, that's a good way of putting it.
Broken people are easy to control and manipulate.
Well, yeah, especially unwell people too.
Women,
They're easy. If we're well,
when
then what are we're not?
right,
There's nothing to sell
we
us,
can be
right?
controlled if we're well. And so
Oh,
when women were starting to get healthy, take charge of their lives, and what happened is the system is making us sicker. Why? Because we want to change the world for the better for everyone. Now, that's a direct threat to the world that has been, right? So we're not going to change that. We're going to see the systems degrade. But it's up to us to arm ourselves and our sisters collectively and to validate who we are.
mhm.
That's that's our job. And I know that's exhausting, but we're built for it. I
Yeah.
eat enough and I'm allowed to get incredibly enraged and angry and like that person that
It's just
person
what we
who
do with our
attacked
anger,
me on
I guess.
Instagram today, I'm grateful for. That man who said that horrible thing, I'm grateful for
Oh,
because he made me so angry to be like, motherfucker, I've already spent 3 days in my rage towards men.
yeah.
And
It's
that
palpable. I can feel it.
pushed me over the wall to be like, motherfucker, how dare you
Mhm.
go and take your bullshit and invalidate another
Well,
human
and that
being?
he was just so easily able to express that to you,
Yeah,
you
and you
know,
know what? That's
where
what
I
men.
mean, you or I would like, I would doubt myself 100 times before I ever would say something like that rude to someone in publicly. Like, just go away. Who you
Well,
think?
I'm now getting more and more saying it,
Yeah, well, I'm not
and I
surprised that you are, though.
and I will get more and more. And if
Yeah.
as I become more present, I am fully prepared for more of that to be said, because a
Oh,
man's
yeah.
job
Maybe.
is to put a woman in her place.
Ooh, that just gives me shivers, even just you saying that. It's just, oh,
But
yeah.
that's a man's job. Put her in her place. Put her.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I've lived my
that's
life
the old guard. I feel like that's the old guard for sure.
100%, but we're
You
again,
know, that's old guard.
but we're still living in that system.
So we're
And
still living in the remnants of it for sure.
that
Absolutely.
system doesn't want to die. Fair.
No.
Get it.
Yeah.
But my job is to make sure you die.
Yeah,
And
and I
I
think
am
that's why you're getting the comments because it's so obvious that like that's what you're here for and you're not giving
I
up,
am
right?
100% on board, and I am so grateful to be in the menopausal phase of
Yeah.
pulling on my power, pulling on my rage, pulling on my wisdom,
Mhm.
and being able to be like, yeah, you're going to die. Congratulations. I'm done.
Yeah.
I want everyone's humanity to be seen. I even want their humanity to be seen, but they're kind of on the bottom of the list.
Well, it's change is scary,
Yeah.
right? If you've
Well,
had something that sort of works in your advantage, why would you want that to change? Right?
absolutely
Because
100%.
as we know, the unknown is terrifying for
100%.
a lot of people. So I mean, I get why men wouldn't want wouldn't want that to change. If it's
Well,
serving that works, then what
and
is it
here's
going to look like if it changes? It's kind of scary to think. I mean, that you know, uh, what that would look like. So I can
right.
see that that is triggering for them too,
Well, and
right?
there's also that fear that that statement of is men don't want women in charge because they're scared that we'll treat them how they've treated us for
Exactly.
thousands of years. And
Exactly. But
part
well,
of me, part of me would like to, but that's why God gave me a son.
probably, yeah.
No, that's 100% why she gave me a son, because if I had a daughter, ooh, there'd be some bad shit happening. So I have a son, so I have to ramp in. I'm also have a lot of men in my life that I do actually care about.
Yeah.
So I'm lucky in that regards. But so I do want the world to be better for them.
Oh yeah. I mean, I
But
feel like we should all be able to express both of our masculine and feminine side, and it should be,
you know
you
what?
know,
I don't even want to I don't even want that anymore. I don't give a shit what energy you label it. Just express who you are. Like
yeah.
I think the polarity, like if we go to a spiritual thought process, and this is what I've talked with my guides about, is that concept of masculine and feminine is not real.
Hmm.
It's not a real concept. It's a construct created for control. And
For
it's a
divide?
binary. Absolutely, it's a polarity. It's just a polarity that was created, but honestly, it doesn't mean anything, right? What happened is we put man, woman when it's just polarity, and then we went man good, woman bad, and nothing else in between exists. But it's just polarity. It's like North Pole, South Pole. The North Pole is
Yeah.
not worse than the South Pole. It is completely
No, God, no.
necessary.
They're both
And
needed. The
they're
balance of it.
they're both balance. But we don't go, well, I like the South Pole, so the North Pole is shit, and we're just going to be like, bleh. I'm not even going to acknowledge the North Pole is real. I'm not going to
I gotta go. I
acknowledge the
gotta go.
North.
I'm at my appointment.
All right,
Okay,
I love you.
okay, bye. Love you. Bye.